Good morning, everyone. It is 8 a.m. Central Time, 9 a.m. Eastern, and I am coming to you today from the Eastern Time Zone. I am in sunny Ohio on spring break doing some family visiting, and so I have this lovely morning light coming into the room, which I'm a little jealous of. It'd be great to have this in my space. Um, so we will see. There may be additional noises and dog barks and who knows what going on outside of here, just because there's a lot of people sharing one house. Um, but today's topic is important, and I don't have a guest because I knew I would be on spring break, and I didn't want anything to mess up anybody's live if we do have technical issues or something because I'm not in my normal space. But today we're talking about asking. And I've been reading this book, Ask, The Bridge from Your Dreams to Your Destiny. It's by Mark Victor Hansen and his wife, Crystal. And Mark is the genius and the author behind the Chicken Soup for the Soul series. So this book has quite a few stories from different people who have asked questions or weren't afraid to ask for what they wanted and how it impacts their life and business. And there's a lot of other content in there as well, but it really got me thinking about the idea of asking and what what we are asking or maybe what we aren't. Hi, Anna. Thanks for letting me know that you're here, especially when we are out of our element and coming from somewhere else. So if you have any questions, or I would love to know, Anna, what is the number one question you ask your clients? Anna is a fantastic photographer, and she's a member of the Inner Circle that I am also a member of. And she is great for headshots. If you need to have your headshot redone, she and I need to talk about some branding photos and things like that. But so if you have a question that you normally ask your clients, that would be I'd love to know, is there an intake form that you use? Because I started thinking about it and I went, wow, we don't ask as many questions as we used to, I don't think. Questioning has kind of become taboo in a way. Either we ask Google or Siri or Alexa or something the answer. And also, there's all those commercials right now, right? The child is asking the parent in that one commercial about Pompeii and things like that. And rather than teaching her how to look up the answers to things, perhaps herself, he's asking Alexa what the name that it was Mount Vesuvius and what year it erupted. Well, we're kind of losing maybe even our natural curiosity because it's kind of become taboo to not have the answers for everything, right? I can tell you that my children don't seem to ask very much. They think that they can figure it out themselves, and they sometimes get into trouble before they will come to ask for help. Or I know they don't like to ask their teachers because I often say, well, did you raise your hand in class? Did you ask the teacher? Well, no. Well, that's how we learn things. And why we're not encouraging more asking, I'm not sure. And I think it's bleeding into adulthood a little bit. And I realized myself, I am not really great with asking, not so much asking questions, but things like asking for help or asking for what I really need in my business. And it kind of sent me down this little rabbit hole of how does the body language, of course, affect this asking? And I realized with some of the clients that I'm working with as well, I'm thinking that their presence and how they're coming across to their team may actually be stifling their team asking questions. And we need to ask questions. We need healthy dialogue. Conflict is so important for outcomes. And right now, everything is turned upside down with the pandemic and all of the Zoom kinds of meetings and everything being virtual. I think there's a little bit less asking going on because you want to come across that you know exactly what you're doing, that maybe you don't need any help because you want to continue to work from home and you don't want to be asked to come back to the office, or you don't want to uh, be on the chopping block, job wise, because there was an issue on whether you knew something or didn't know something. So I think we stopped asking because there's some kind of shame sometimes associated with asking a question or saying, I don't know the answer to that, let me find out. Why wouldn't we, why can't we admit that? And so let me go back to my notes because I'll end up getting off topic. So I have been reflecting on what I could use help with, and I've decided that I'm going to start a challenge. Whether I go through and officially do the challenge in LinkedIn or something, let's face it, I probably won't because that's an extra step. But what I would like to challenge you to do is to figure out 5 good questions to ask somebody else every day. You could ask multiple questions to one person if you want, but I think it would be even a better challenge if we're asking multiple people different questions and just see what happens in our business. Take some time to reflect on what we really want and what questions might help us to get there. So, for instance, in my newsletter that I sent out that went out yesterday, the theme was this idea of asking. And I said, so, hey, I'm asking you to sign up on my scheduler because I haven't talked to most of you in quite a while. You've just kind of been sitting on my list. My list isn't really that long, but I generally know the people that are on my list too. I don't have a ton of followers that I'm sending this newsletter to. So I asked them, hey, could you sign up on my scheduler so that we could just reconnect? That's a really great ask, I think, because I can find out better on those calls. I can ask more questions about what my followers need from me. What does my tribe actually want to know? How can I serve you better by uh, just asking questions and then or answering questions that you're asking of me, right? Which is one of the reasons why I love these lives. If when they build up and they get going and more people are coming in and asking questions or asking questions ahead of time, I feel like I can be more of service to my audience. So I'm encouraging everybody to ask 5 questions a day. I'm going to challenge myself to post those 5 questions and to give me time to reflect. I will probably start it next Monday. So that it can be a Monday through Friday kind of challenge. And also I'll be home. I'll be back uh, from break, and maybe the kids will be back in school, and it'll just be a little bit easier all the way around. I don't want to promise something that I can't necessarily keep up with. So that's my challenge. Uh, we're gonna do 5 questions a day. So what's the body language piece, right? Everybody's like, okay, well, this asking thing is great, but what's this body language piece? And you mentioned your clients that are screwing up their body language when it comes to asking. And number one, obviously, is to stay open, right? You have to be open to receive. You know that probably nobody's going to come to you and ask a question if you're sitting at your desk like this and you're staring at your computer screen. You look like you're deep in thought and there's something that you can't figure out. And you're just like, every signal is like, leave me alone right now, right? It's fine to do that in your own office, particularly if you want, if you need some time to yourself. But in meetings that you're leading, or if you are with, say, somebody that you're mentoring and you're encouraging them to ask questions, obviously you need to stay open. And that isn't just here, that's actually open in your face as well. I'm dealing with several clients right now that really their nonverbal behavior and their nonverbal communication struggles aren't so much the body as it is their facial expressions, because they naturally have that resting Zoom face that I talk about, where everything kind of comes a little bit more narrow and just neutral. And even to the point of uh, being very attentive and really listening. But instead of listening with kind of an open, yes, ask me questions kind of listening, it's really thinking hard, and it ends up being looking critical versus open. And that's not their intention, but that's what's coming across on their face. So not only do you need to stay open here, but you need to keep your face open as well to ask for questions. And remember that the body and the brain are connected. So you have to have the right mindset, and you need to have your body prepared to ask and then prepared to receive whatever the answer ends up being when you ask. So that's, why this openness is so important. You need to, stay open to even have the right questions drop in. If you do a morning meditation or quiet time where you're thinking about your day and what you want to achieve from it, and you're asking the universe to provide for you, there's a reason why so many of our yoga poses, the sun salutation starts very, very, very open. There's a reason that most of our uh, interpretations of religious figures have an openness, I think, to them, right? Why does Buddha sit the way he sits? Well, it's very open. Right? He's open to receive, and so we need to kind of think about that. And uh, if your morning routine and as you're asking things is all like knotted up, maybe you want to unknot yourself a little bit and be open to that. Here's another thing that we have to do. We have to keep emotion out of it if we can. We need to try to drop the emotion behind the response that we hope to get when we're asking questions, because of course, we're oftentimes, unless it's a simple, I don't know the answer to this, and do you have information for me question, oftentimes there is some bit of emotion behind it, particularly with our businesses and with our jobs. There's of course emotion involved in that because we have an emotional connection to what we're doing, hopefully, right? Particularly if we're entrepreneurs, we're highly invested. If we're working for another company, there are places that we want to go with our career, and so we are still emotionally attached. We have to try to keep that emotion out of it initially, because that is one of the other reasons why people aren't asking questions so much. I think it's because people are putting emotion are connecting emotion to it too often. We're leaving politics out of things right now, right? We have a lot of very hot button issues right now between uh, harassment and diversity and inclusion, and just the pandemic in general. There's just our emotions have kind of been heightened and twisted around this last year, and so that's another reason why I think we're not asking so many questions. But we need to try to, at least ourselves, leave our emotional connection out of it. And if somebody has an emotional reaction to the question, we need to stay open and maybe say, thank you so much for that answer. Uh, I will take that under advisement or something if it's not, if it's not kind of the answer that you want, I guess. But don't just snap right back. That's the one thing that usually happens, because non-verbally, uh, we have a lot of empathetic movement. So if somebody snaps at us and they have a negative or fighting kind of emotional response to us, which means they will be adding weight to their movements and probably speed to to their movements, and things will look a little bit jerkier and heavier and punchy in their movement response to you. If they're having a knee-jerk emotional reaction, we tend to want to fight fire with fire and come back and punch back at the person who's punching at us. And we can't do that. You need to have the emotional and the nonverbal wherewithal to relax and to not engage in that. And that's really hard, but you have to put it front of your mind. I'm going to ask this question, and if I get an answer that is more of a fighting reactionary kind of answer, I am going to remain the calm one in this situation. So my last tip for you is to think about the type of question that you're asking, because you can non-verbally support that question, and you'll have a better chance of receiving the kind of answer that you want, because we are bad listeners generally, right? And often we can give an answer that wasn't to the question that we heard. And that's just kind of human nature. But you, as the asker, can do more, particularly if it's face to face. It'll come through the phone a little bit if you're asking on the phone. But if you are looking for information, if your question is about what might I need, for instance, if I would need information from someone about a new platform, perhaps, that I'm going to be speaking on, and it's a different system that I've used before because there are so many now out there on the market, and I don't want to be caught unawares. And I ask, could you send me a tutorial on this new platform? Could we please schedule a time to have a practice on this particular platform, because I am not familiar with this, and I want to make sure that I'm giving your audience my full attention, and I'm not more worried about the platform than I am about what I am that I'm speaking about, right? So if you noticed right there when I was asking those questions, I was staying very open, and I was doing a little bit of twisting, because this is an informational nonverbal. So it's supporting what I'm asking. If I need somebody to evaluate something for me, if I need an either or kind of answer from someone, then if I am tipping as I'm answering it, there's a better chance, because my body language is supporting my verbal content, there's a better chance they will answer that either or rather than going off and giving me a bunch of information. For instance, even if you're asking something as simple as, so I'm setting up this meeting. I would like to know if I should be asking Joe or Jim to join us, or do you want both of them to join us? You notice how I'm doing a little bit of tipping, because this is really just an either or kind of question. Do you want, well, who'd I say, Joe or Jim to join us? Or, there's kind of a third option. Maybe I should be CCing both or asking both of them to the meeting if I didn't know. And that way, instead of whoever I'm asking could go off on kind of a tirade on the benefits and negatives to both of these people being in on the meeting. That's not what I asked, right? I'm asking who should be on the invite list, basically. I'm not asking them to give me a tirade about, well, if you ask Joe to come, he's just going to override that meeting, and we're going to be bombarded with all sorts of questions that we don't need the answers to. So I'm really not sure that you should be asking Joe. And then Jim, on the other hand, well, he rarely shows. So if you ask him, it's probably a non-starter, because he probably won't accept. Right? That didn't answer my question. I still don't know who I should be inviting. You're just giving me extra information that I didn't need, right? So if we can be more specific about our ask and use the right body language with it, we have a better chance of getting the better answer. Finally, if you want action steps from someone, or if you have a process that you need to be completed or something like that, and maybe you're asking for help for completion of something, then you need to do some leaning forward. You need to show them that you want to be in action or that you're ready to go. And so this question could be even something like, who's free at 2:00? I need a couple of extra bodies in order to set up the room for tonight's meeting, right? So particularly if it's like a Zoom meeting, a Zoom call or something, and you raise your hand, it's okay to your hand in a Zoom meeting, or to use the little thing so that the like applause thing comes up to raise your hand, or use whatever it is to show people that you want to speak. We have to be uh, more physical about showing that we want to talk, right? So you raise your hand and then say, okay, everybody, I just really need to know, I need 2 volunteers. Who's available at 2 o'clock? And that puts a little more urgency to it as well, particularly on a Zoom call, because you're getting closer. But it will have a better chance of having somebody go, okay, I will, versus sitting back and just saying, I need some help at 2 o'clock. Who's anybody available to join me at 2 o'clock? Not much urgency there, not much excitement there. It doesn't seem like it's going to be fun to set up the room for sure. But if you're right in there, you're saying, okay, we have this meeting coming up at 7. My time to set up the room is at 2 o'clock. Who can help me? Right. And you're kind of in their face, and you're being a little bit more direct about it, which is my next thing, directness, right? Be direct, succinct, and to the point in your questioning, the better chance you'll have in your answer, and the better your body language will probably be at being direct as well. Because when our body language is kind of all over the place when we're asking questions, and we're not really paying attention, and we're not looking at the person that we're asking, they don't get the urgency behind the question, because we're not relaying to them that there's any urgency behind the question. It's almost like it's making the question not matter, because our body language is telling whoever it is that we're asking that it doesn't matter. And so sometimes we do this. Think about the last few times you ask questions, particularly if somebody says, any questions? And then you're thinking, do I have any questions? I don't know. Maybe I do, maybe I don't. And then when you think of one, if you continue that kind of body language instead of going, oh, yes, I did think of something. This is what I need, right? And you notice how my hands came together and it's very pointed. Yes, this is what I need. I'm totally focused, and I'm very direct then with my ask. Again, the better chance I will have of getting an answer. Managers, think about how you're asking questions. Team members, think about how you're asking questions, both non-verbally and verbally. They have to be in sync to get better answers. So when we talked about how does your body language affect this, right? That's exactly how your body language is affecting it. It could be negating the question by being all over the place. It could be sabotaging your question because you're tipping when you should be staying open, or you should be coming forward. So think about the type of question you're asking and match your body language to it. Okay. Take in the answer, reflect on it, and say thank you. Acknowledge that you've received the answer and be grateful for it. That will help you also receive more thoughtful answers in the future, because you are being gracious and grateful for them answering it and taking the time, particularly if it's something like you're going to your mentor and asking them a question. Or the types of questions that I'm going to be asking are kind of big ask questions. I'm challenging myself to go after some other people in my field that are much bigger and broader and influential than I am, and asking them to do things with me and to partner with me, because I feel like I need to be bolder in my asking. And what's the worst that can happen? Okay, they'll say no, right? Or I need to be bolder in connecting with people on LinkedIn that are CEOs of other companies or are of bigger firms than I've been working with. If I'm going to grow my business, I have to get bigger and bolder with my ask. So when I do get an answer, I need to make sure that I'm super grateful for that answer. No buts. If you get an answer that you don't quite like, well, yes, but this is going to be another whole topic, I think, the whole idea of yes and, which goes into improvisation. I need to find the right improvisation guest to have on this live, but I know we will be talking about that in the future. No buts. You have to accept their answer no matter what it is and move on from it because you asked. How many times do people come back at you with something and you're like, well, you asked? Right? And you think to yourself, you asked and I answered. So make sure that you are simply taking in the answer and maybe adding to it, yes, and this, or, and I have another question. That makes me think of something else versus, yes, but, or no, for heaven's sake. Don't come right back to them with a no if it wasn't the answer that you wanted. All right. So, who's in on my challenge? I would love for you to private message me, or even really quick before we get off here today, message me and say, I'm in, because I think this is a really great challenge. I haven't seen one like this where we're asking questions. So, when I post my 5 questions, you guys comment your question that you made that day, the questions that you received. And then I really want to know what happens in your business when you start asking these questions, when we encourage ourselves to ask these questions. And even if you're asking, uh, typing it up in a kind of an email, or you're doing a LinkedIn message, or you are um, Instagram messaging somebody, I think you can do that on Instagram, right? Or Facebook messaging, or however you're doing it. Even if you're typing it, become intentional behind it. Open up while you're typing and see how things feel differently. I do believe that we ask different types of questions, or we formulate them different, or we're in a better state of mind when we keep that body open versus real quick responding, and we're like this on our phones, and it's tight, and it's like right. I am a big proponent of laptops because we could stay a little bit more open. Okay, everybody, I wish you a fantastic Tuesday. Please let me know later on, or if you are watching the replay, that you let me know what's happening, and whether you enjoyed this. I am starting a new program in May where I am going to be training in body language and what it is that I do. If you are interested, if you train others, if you are a consultant and having additional real body language knowledge as an expert would be of use to you, I encourage you to reach out to me. See that, Allison at movingimageconsulting.com. Simply email me and say, hey, I heard you're going to be training others. I want to know more about that. Okay. It will be a virtual program, and we'll see who and how we can also meet live, at least, once or twice as we go through the program as well. We'll probably be about 6 months long in order to train you to observe and give you much more of the information than I do kind of on these lives. So that's sort of that big announcement. Next week on the 6th, on the 6th of April, I will be having Rafer Weigel with me, who is used to be a TV news anchor, and now he has his own video communication business. And so we're going to be talking body language for video. If you are going to be filming a video, if you are thinking about having one done for your business, you really don't want to miss next week's live. That is it for me, everybody. I'm going to go back to my family now, as it is spring break. Have a fantastic Passover for everyone, as well as happy Easter this weekend. Enjoy your family, enjoy yourselves, and good luck with getting the vaccine. If you're like me, I'm finally eligible, but I can't seem to find one anywhere. So if you have tips for that too, how to get your vaccine in Illinois, particularly DuPage County, send me a line. Take care, everybody. Have a great week.